find that unicorn. I still want you, make me need you, make you mine like unicorn. Got to have you, 'cause I just can't live without you.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Sorry I'm a little late to the party tonight. Ben's a little late. He'll be later. Anyway, I had to buy a little time in there. I was getting the update from one of my wonderful kids who got to go to a cool place called the McKenzie Center today in Wisconsin, in Poynette, Wisconsin, just a little bit north of Madison, and a DNR facility to learn about some wildlife and cool stuff like that. So I was getting a scoop on that. And that means the show's got to be a little delayed. Plus, Ben wasn't going to be able to join until a little while later. And Nico couldn't come on early. And Viking Mo couldn't be here because he's so sad about the Vikings. No, and that's not why. He's actually, I think the Vikings draft turned out okay, even despite their peculiar move in the first round. But they did all right after that, figuring stuff out. They got a good player right at the end of the first, and then they did okay. Bears did okay. We'll talk more about that. We'll get into more about Packer stuff really with the draft when Ben gets on. So I'm going to use this little bit of time before Ben comes in to talk about Bucks. Boo! Bucks outright opinions. Here's a quick thing about the Bucks. So it's super funny, right? Like the overreaction to one game in a series is insane. We all do it. I totally get it. But like the mainstream media is freaking hilarious. Because a bunch of people picked against the Bucks going into this series against the Celtics. They're in the Eastern Conference semis, if you're unfamiliar. And what happened was, the Bucks came in. Hey, how you doing, David? South Mississippi. Hey, welcome in. But a lot of people picked against the Bucks because the Celtics were so dominant against the Nets. Oh my gosh. And they weren't that dominant though. They won some close games. They swept them 4-0, but it was close games, right? But nobody pointed that out until after the Celtics lost the opening game against the Bucks. And all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, what are the Bucks or what are the Celtics going to do? The Bucks are just so dominant in this game. Well, it's one game, man. It's one game. First off, now I still personally believe in my Bucks. I think they're a tough, tested, veteran team with the best leader you could possibly ask for, who works his butt off and does everything for the team and makes the right play. And in a sport where you even can be more selfish and more about, I got to be the man to take the shot and all this stuff, he says, I got to be the man to make the right play. And that's why I think the Bucks are still going to win the championship. But the point is this. Everyone overreacted after the Bucks won, and then the Celtics won the game 2 in a dominant fashion, and they're like, "Oh my God, no! The Celtics are the best again. The Bucks are going to lose this series." So, point is, it's a 7-game series, best of 4, first to 4, and I believe that in the Bucks, even without Chris Middleton for a couple more games at least, that they can figure out how to get it done. Now, here is a key turnaround from game 2. Now, yes. Number one, the Celtics aren't going to shoot like crazy high percentage from 3-point range every game. That's not going to happen. Okay, that happened in game 2. It's not going to happen in every game. But there is an adjustment the Bucks have to make. So if you know basketball, this. Now, the Bucks only got up 18 3-pointers in the second game against the Celtics. Only 18. Celtics shot 43. That's way too few threes to get up for the Bucks. Now, the Celtics were doing a better job running guys off the 3-point line. Defensively, okay, fine. But the other key is the right guys have to shoot it for the Bucks from 3. And Drew Holiday, while I like him as a player, how you doing, Zero? Giannis is like the polar opposite of LeBron. Yeah, he rolls with the guys he has. LeBron recruits superstars. Giannis says he's with a bunch of superstars. Like he thinks his team, not that he's with a bunch of superstars, but he thinks his team is a super team. And that's what they are. And that's why they're going to win and overcome all odds, just like they did last year. Because they play as a team down the stretch. And we'll talk quickly about what that means for you at the end of games. I got one quick reference point. But the whole point about the Bucks shooting threes is that Drew Holiday, you're not a 3-point shooter, dude. You can make them sometimes, sure. But he was 1 for 6 in this last game. He shoots kind of in the 20s upper 20s for 3-point makes. That's not the guy I want taking the most threes on my team. I want Super Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen to be shooting the most threes. And those guys are not going to create their threes more so. They're going to be more spot up threes. So Holiday create and kick, Giannis create and kick. Those guys find the open spots. Super Pat. This year it's Super Pat, Grayson Allen. Give me some Bobby Porters from 3 at times. Give me a Brolo, a couple once in here and there. Not too many Brolo, but you can shoot a couple. And then Drew Holiday, you can do a couple. He's better actually off the dribble than he is spotting up for 3. So if he wants to, instead of get the kickoff pass, he wants to go off the dribble a couple times a game. Like Drew Holiday, maximum 4 3-point shots in a game. Right, guys shooting more threes. The Bucks shoot better from 3. They win the games. Okay, because they're going to dominate them inside. They dominated them inside again. Points in the paint, they killed them. 2-point makes, they killed them. Rebounding, they were fine. They're going to hold their own. So anyway, all that being said, even without Chris Middleton, which he could help, his shooting could help in the series, the outside shooting, and he is a good outside shooter, but he's not in the game to turn the ball over as much. So right now it's kind of it's kind of like a equal point there. It's, his lack of turnovers is helped in game 1, but just like it helped to finish off the Bulls series, him stopped turning the ball over, missed his shooting, but didn't miss his turnovers. So it's got to get the right guys shooting threes. That's number 1. And number two is they got to play through all the contact because the Celtics foul the crap out of you. Let's be real about it. Like watching these games, they're calling it physical defense or good defense. No, it's really a lot of fouling. But if the officials are going to call a game where they're not calling many fouls, well, then the Bucks got to play tough too. And they did it in game 1. And game 2, they couldn't quite match the energy. So, but back in their home crowd tomorrow afternoon, Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee. I think they're going to get it done, and the crowd should help them out. Deer District outside is going to be crazy. It's going to be awesome. So great to have the playoffs, second round of the playoffs, semifinals, Eastern Conference semifinals in Milwaukee tomorrow afternoon. So that's a great thing in the state of Wisconsin. Ben's giving me a private chat here. Let me see what he's got. Oh my goodness. He's going to wait even longer. Oh, fine. All right. Well, I'll cover some stuff then. But here's the point about, what was the other thing I was going on? My brain's kind of clicking right now, but it's getting ahead of some of my thoughts. So I apologize for that. The other key thing is this, right? This is the other key thing why I believe in the Bucks, because they play as a team. And they're not trying to say, our superstar needs to take the shot at the end of the game. If you watch basketball at many levels, high school, college, and especially the NBA, what happens? A lot of teams have a superstar, the best guy on the team, best scorer on the team, whatever the case may be. And at the end of games, all right. Oh, there you go. All right. Sorry. I didn't know.
What the crap?
Well,
I'm sitting here waiting. You're blabbing and blabbing and blabbing and blabbing.
Oh,
and
you're
blabbing
calling
and
me.
Blabbing. Nobody freaking cares about the Bucks.
Yes, they do, and they
We're
should, because
Pack.
the Bucks are the best team in Wisconsin, the most likely team to win a championship this year, and
I don't know.
They have the best superstar in Wisconsin, probably in the whole country, probably.
I don't like superstars. Did you hear what Matt LaFleur said today to the rookies?
No, nobody's a superstar.
They asked Sean Ryan, what was the first thing Matt LaFleur said to you at your first ever meeting with the head coach of the team? And Matt LaFleur said, rule number 1, nobody's bigger than the team.
Matt LaFleur. Is he going to enforce that this year?
Well, no, because you got Aaron Rodgers, who's the owner. So he's bigger than the team. But Matt LaFleur seems to think that's the rule. He doesn't know that Aaron Rodgers, who's the owner, will not follow that rule. But, hey, who am I to judge?
How many times more money does Aaron Rodgers make than Matt LaFleur?
A lot more. 15
At least
times.
It's probably like 10 times, right?
It is 10 times because LaFleur makes like $5 million.
Right.
Though when his contract is coming up, he's going to make a hell of a lot more since he's been winning a bunch of games.
Yeah, he might get McCarthy dollars on his next deal. But right now he's probably super cheap, like $4 or $5 million. Rodgers makes 10 times that. So we
Yeah.
know who's in charge, la. But I hope he talks a tough game, and I hope he keeps it up.
Anyway,
Anyway,
just kidding. Everybody cares about the Bucks. It's just I've been sitting here for like 8 minutes.
I
waiting for you to let me
apologize.
in, and I'm like,
I
what
was
are you
trying to
doing?
read
I'm
your
right
message.
Here. I'm
I was
right
trying
here.
I'm sorry. I was trying to read your message, but also trying to talk at the same time and trying to keep my brain together. I'm super excited about lots of stuff, including the fact that I get to watch the Bucks tomorrow afternoon. Really jazzed about that. Last thing is
what
this:
time are they on?
2:00, 2:30 game tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we should do a
Last thing,
Hafeman Bros live reacts.
I don't know. Last thing is this: the Bucks play as a team. That's why they're going to win, right? Because when you have a superstar guy that's got to take the last shot, everybody knows it. Super easy for the defense, just like Ja Morant. Like, I understand he blew up in the second game, but the first game of the series, they could have won if he had just passed the damn ball and not be like, I got to be the guy to take the last shot. Well, guess what? Everybody knows you're going to take the last shot. So 3 guys are on you. You got teammates sitting there wide open. You try to force a shot. You get blocked. You turn it over. You lose the game.
Yep.
Bucks pass the ball. They'll win the games. But the only problem is the Celtics are pretty good at passing the ball too. And so they kind of play like that. So it's a tough matchup, but I still believe in the Bucks. Mostly because they got Brolo and nobody else does. All right, let's move on to Packer talk. Ben, Packers. So here's the deal. Packers had a draft. How we doing? Oh, David doesn't like that. Oh, let's talk about this. David's wondering, 12 should show up for OTAs, right?
That's another thing Matt LaFleur said today in his press conference.
Did he say Aaron was here? Aaron, he was
here.
No. Oh, okay.
He said they asked him, like, apparently Dave Bakhtiari was hanging around the facility when the rookies showed up yesterday. So some of the rookie offensive linemen got to meet him and talk with him. And then the reporter's like, did you have those guys hang around longer to meet up with these guys? And LaFleur's like, oh, no. He must have been here just, getting treatment or who knows what he was doing and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, but I mean, they'll all meet each other when we have the organized, when we have the whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's like, we'd like to have everybody here, but as we all know, but then he's like, but it is voluntary.
Oh,
he said real quick, but it is voluntary. As in, the owner won't be here, everyone. Unless the Bucks have a game, and then he decides to fly up and check in with everybody for 2 minutes.
Did he even appear in Green Bay when he came for that Bucks game?
Yeah, they said that he showed up and went through. He was there for like a half a day of practice or whatever it was last week or whatever, or a couple weeks ago, whatever the heck that was.
Well, he needs to do all the activities because he's got a whole bunch of new receivers to work with.
I know.
And depending, we know the track record of how long it takes to gain his trust and figure out how to work with Rodgers and blah, blah, blah. Well, then Aaron Rodgers go work with these guys so they can understand how your brain works and what you're thinking. And David wants you to show some leadership. Well, yeah. David, I don't know if you watch basketball or not. I don't know if you're just a Packer guy or if you like Wisconsin sports, but if you know anything about Giannis Antetokounmpo, the dude is awesome. He's like the best ambassador star for your team you could ever ask for. He works his tail off. He's been working his tail off since he's been in this country, since he got, well, even way before that, when he was a kid, dirt poor kid growing up in Greece and had nothing, had to share shoes with his brothers and all this stuff.
Yep.
Like, the dude's freaking awesome. So, like, that's a guy I can look up to. And I'm so glad he's here in our state representing the Bucks. And he also didn't abandon, even when all the teams were like, oh, Giannis, come play with me. Giannis, come to the big market. And Giannis is like, that's okay. This is my city. Milwaukee's my city. I'm going to stay right here. He's so awesome.
Well, that's another reason why I really like the fact that LaFleur said the first thing he said to the team was, nobody's bigger than the team, or, number one rule is team first. I think it was number one rule is team first or something like that. Maybe I got that wrong, but still.
Okay. Close enough. It's paraphrased, not a quote.
It's still something where, I think now I'm memorizing. That's what Sean Ryan said. But anyways, and Sean Ryan seems like a cool guy, by the way. Just heads up, kind of weird and wacky, but cool guy. But if you can establish that with these guys now, and then that is established, and Rodgers isn't around, and the leaders on the team are Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, Aaron Jones, because Aaron Jones will be there, those guys will all be there because it's in their contracts to get probably extra money if they show up, so they will be there. Remember, that's what Adrian Amos said last year, where they're like, "Hey, Adrian, you showed up, but all those receivers didn't, and Rodgers, how come you're here?" And Adrian Amos is like, "I get more money in my contract if I show up." So
That's
duh.
right. He's like, yeah, I'm not leaving money
Yeah,
off the
he's like,
table.
I mean, I'd rather not be here, but I mean, I'm not leaving money on the table. Hello. Anyways, but with those guys as the leaders that they see first, every one of those guys is a team guy. So that's another thing that's pretty cool. And the fact that they already saw David Bakhtiari walking around the building also shows he's another guy who's there, ready to go, who wants to play, who hasn't played in a long time, actually, because of his injury. And he's raring to go and ready to go, and he wants to be there. So those are all good things. So if Rodgers walks into that as prima donna, Brett Favre style, it's so crazy that he's like, remember how he's like, I don't want to be like Favre, except he's just like Favre.
Yeah.
It's nuts how it's almost the same exact thing.
It is weird. And I look, I'm going to put this perspective out there. Okay. Like, I understand you can be at a job in this thing for a long, long time, and you can kind of have fatigue, and you can kind of be like, man, I know what I'm doing. Right. I mastered this job. Like, I don't need to be here for all this extra stuff and all this extra work and all that, whatever. But at the same time, you're trying to set an example, you're trying to lead, and you are trying to win a damn Super Bowl, which you haven't been able to do for 11 years. So, what do you think is going to help you get to that? Because other dudes who have won the Super Bowl more recently, including Tom Brady, were working out with guys that they're going to play with all the time in the offseason. Whenever they could legally, and even when they couldn't legally, they were doing it because they knew how important that was. And now you're going into this thing with Rodgers where so many new guys, and we don't know if Tunion's going to be there for how long, coming off the knee injury. We don't know. So many variables, but a bunch of dudes you've never worked with, and you are so particular about the people you work with and them understanding this or that or whatever your call is and your adjustment is and tweak is and all that. Like, how do you expect these guys to get all this stuff if you're not there to work with them? Come on, man. Step it up, Rodgers. Be the leader you used to be and are supposed to be. Follow Giannis's lead. Just look a little south from Green Bay and you'll find a good example to follow.
Well, he wants to be able to reap all the benefits, but only do half the work. And when you're the quarterback of the team and you're a $50 million a year guy, as much as you don't need the work, when the team needs the work, you need to be there. And he won't be there. I mean, he's already proven he doesn't want to be there. So he said he doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. I don't need it. That's what he says. He believes that the offseason doesn't need to happen. He thinks that training camp is enough. And that's what he believes. Even though the year after they drafted Love, and they had the 2020 stuff, and they were doing all the Zoom calls and everything else, and they spent all that time working on the offense together. That's all we heard from LaFleur, from Rodgers, from Hackett, how important it was that those guys all got together and were meeting all the time, on Zoom or whatever, talking about what the offense was, how the offense was going to work and blah, 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 and what plays are the best and what concepts are the best and blah, all this crap. And then last year, of course, we had the whole I'm a diva baby. I don't know if I want to be there crap. And they started off with their first game, got pummeled by the Saints. So, that was awesome. But it's one of those things where hopefully this team, as with guys like I said, Preston Amos, Aaron Jones, David Bakhtiari, these guys on their second contracts or in third contract in Bakhtiari's case, and hopefully he'll be back. But those guys are the leaders that can be there. Hopefully they'll all be there for the most part. And then establish the team and the importance of working as a team. And hopefully the wide receivers show up this year. I mean, I think Lazard didn't show up last year because he was probably pressed into it from Devontae, because it was Devontae was the leader of that group who decided not to show up.
Yep.
Mr. Devontae, who everybody is the greatest thing in the world. But
yeah, MVS wasn't there. Lazard wasn't there. All
none
the
of
main
those guys
weren't there. Yeah.
all the starters weren't there.
Yep.
But Randall Cobb will be there.
Yep. Randy's going to be
it's
there.
probably part of his contract that he took a pay cut. He's like, take a pay cut and make sure you are there all the time, which is craziness. But whatever. I don't know. It looks like the kids are done here, so I might be leaving and then not coming back because it's so late that I got to stop and get some stuff and do some crap. So I'm sorry.
Oh man! All
Things
right,
got crazy.
fair
Libby had her thing, and then I don't know.
Got crazy. All right. Well, I'll just give a few. I'll give a few thoughts, like overarching things, and I want to. I'll bring a couple things related to the Goot Master, this week, because he was classic Goody this week as well.
Was he?
So, yeah. Well, you hear what he said? Come on, man. All right.
I didn't hear what he said. You brought
All
this
right.
up on the phone today, and I was like, I didn't know, and you didn't really talk about it, so I was just like, what was the big thing he said that you're all freaking out about? Let's hear it.
All right. So I told you that, some people prior to the draft, their comp for Christian Watson, the Packers gave away, they're both their second round picks where they could have got good players to move all the way up to 34 to get Christian Watson. Seems like a real nice kid. They drafted his dad too. That's cool. Cool. Nice kid. However, they went and got him, and a lot of people before the draft were saying his comp was Marquez Valdez-Scantling was a comp for this dude. Yeah. So, and some other people gave some other comps too. That's fine. But that was one of his comps. And then Brian Gutekunst was kind of asked about a little bit with, that comparison, and if Watson would be kind of used the same as MVS was, and, are they pretty comparable players and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, well, I mean, they're both very fast and, whatever, but Christian can do some different things. And, he's so shifty and all this stuff and whatever, which kind of a little bit.
It's true.
Okay.
He's better than MVS.
But then the statement that killed me was this, because then he said, then he was like, well, Christian's a lot thicker and a lot heavier and, just, more physical, all this sort of stuff about how much bigger he was and more physical he was. Basically, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but that's what he said. So I went and I looked because I was like, really? I wanted to see what MVS's stuff said when he was drafted. So Christian Watson is like 6'4", 208. 208. Okay. Which is a nice size, fine. He needs to get a little more weight on that 6'4" frame to be like a really big dominant receiver to play that big, but not lose his speed. Marquez Valdez-Scantling coming out of college was 6'4", 206. So those 2 pounds, man, they make a big difference in Brian Gutekunst's mind. Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
The difference is when you look at Christian Watson, he's like a ripped 208.
Yeah, but he's skinny.
He's skinny, but he's ripped, like he's defined, like defined.
Well, Quezzy is pretty defined too. He's just a lot of mean muscle.
Go back and look at MVS when he was drafted. He was a little on the, I'm not saying he's like me, but he wasn't exactly like a ripped monster. I mean, even last year, he was in the league for 4 years and he wasn't like as ripped as Christian Watson is. Christian Watson's ripped. Now they both have the same hands. That's the problem. That's the bigger issue.
I'm worried about him catching the ball.
The other thing that is way better is Christian Watson after the catch, way better. His agility, his ability to read blocks and make cuts and make guys miss, break tackles, way better than MVS. Way better. So
okay, well, that's all good.
That's the difference. He's a much better after the catch guy or end around guy or quick wide receiver screen guy or whatever it is. All right, my kid's coming.
All right.
That's okay. She can talk for 3 seconds.
The one thing I noticed some concerns on is the hands, like you said, and in particular, tracking the ball downfield and the over the shoulder catches. There were a lot of bobbles, even on the ones he caught.
Yeah.
If you go and look at a lot of his footage, so he has a hard time tracking the ball downfield, which he's going to have to be that guy for this team. So Aaron Rodgers, if you're listening, there's another reason to get your butt in there as soon as you can, every opportunity you can, to work with this kid so he can get used to the balls that you throw and get more accustomed to catching those over his shoulder, because he's going to need to do that to make this offense be dynamic like you want it to be.
The other thing, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
it's been reported that Watson's Wonderlic score was a 38. So he's pretty much a Hafeman bro.
Wow.
That's how smart this guy. He's as smart as you and me and my daughter here, right? Livs, you're smart.
Yeah.
Impressive.
There you go. Livs is smart. So he can pick up stuff. It ain't like he's a ding dong.
Good.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like, he'll be with it. He'll be smart. He'll know what's up. And hopefully get him on the jugs machine. Like, what I would say is bring in, you know what? Contact Sterling Sharp.
Mm.
You know, let's give Sterling an olive branch and say, listen, we want you. We're trying to get you in the Hall of Fame. We're going to be pushing for it this year.
God,
right?
He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Let's bring him in, meet with these 3 young receivers, and have Sterling teach him, like, this is how you attack the ball. This is how you work on catching the ball. Remember Sterling used to catch jug machines after every practice, like 100 balls a day. Remember that? I don't know if you remember that. That's what everybody used to talk about when he was a Packer. And that's great news. Bring in Double D. Bring in all these classic. Bring in Jordy. Have Rodgers call Jordy. Bring him in. Bring in James Jones. And have all these guys. Because listen, I love Jason Vrabel as much as the next guy. He's not a wide receiver. He's never been a wide receiver. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And yes, Randall Cobb is there. Yes. And that's great. And he will be a huge, huge help. But throw out an olive branch to all these former Packer receivers who were all really, really, maybe even Greg Jennings. I don't know. I know there's a rift there, but hey.
Well, if Rodgers isn't there, he could come in.
And that's another thing. A lot of people have been saying, like, I've heard a lot of things about people they're like, well, yeah, the Packers had a lot of great draft picks in the second round, but let's look at them. None of them really came in and like took over the league when they right off the bat. And it's like, actually, Greg Jennings did. Greg Jennings walked in and was number 1. It was him and Double D, just like that.
Because Favre would throw it to
Favre
anybody.
didn't give a crap who you were. That's right. Favre's like, who are you? You're Donald Driver. You're the last guy standing after I threw 6 picks against the Rams. All right, fine. I'll throw it to you every play. And then he became a superstar. Double D, a 6th round pick or 7th round, whatever he was. And nobody knew about. But Favre didn't give a crap. He's like, this guy catches it. He jumps really high. I'll throw it to him. So, but I'm just saying, like, bring these guys in and have them work with these young receivers. Because I love Ruvell Martin. I know I think he's still on the coaching staff as like auxiliary coach or something, and that's great. But let's face it, Ruvell Martin had like no career in the NFL. But if you can bring in Sterling, James Lofton, who's hanging around doing the games in the preseason, right? Bring them all in.
I mean, Sterling would be awesome. That guy's dynamic too, and he's like a energetic communicator. He's a great communicator. Like, I mean, I don't know the whole story. I don't know what he's currently up to. Is he still doing anything on NFL Network?
Who's that?
Sterling, because he was awesome at that too.
He hasn't. I don't know. I haven't seen him on there. Yeah, he used to be awesome when he did the breakdowns with.
He's smart. He like communicates stuff well. He's energetic. You're not going to lose your attention. You know, like that guy's just a class A human being. He's just amazing and one hell of a football player.
Yeah.
And man, he should be in the Hall of Fame because he's so stinking good. I don't care. I know they put out something, if his career hadn't been shortened, he was on his way to the Hall of Fame. He still should be in the Hall of Fame. We talked about that before. It was amazing.
If Terrell Davis is in the Hall of Fame, if Gale Sayers is in the Hall of Fame, Sterling Sharp should be in the Hall of Fame.
Ultimate test. Any guy that can have a successful season with Randy Wright as your quarterback, Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Not to
mention,
know
that name. If any of you Packers fans know that name,
Everybody knows that name,
well,
unfortunately.
Zero might. Some of the younger guys might not.
But I
Never
mean,
been
he was
exposed to Randy, right?
the most dominant receiver
Yeah.
for like 4 years in a row or 5 years in a row. I mean, that's Calvin Johnson like, right? Calvin Johnson's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And he was the most dominant guy for a good 4 or 5 years in a row. And yeah, Jerry Rice was around. Maybe he had better numbers, but he wasn't dominant. He was in the offense that created things for him. Sterling would get double and triple teamed and still catch everything, get a crap ton of yards and a crap ton of touchdowns, even though everybody knew where the ball was going. And it still didn't stop him. He still killed everybody. But anyways, I'm just saying that would help, I think, improve. And the Sterling, who was great from the start, but also, the Jordy, who, let's face it, dropped a bunch of balls in the Super Bowl. I mean, he had a rough patch there at the start of his career, and then turned it around. And Watson's hands are suspect. Well, you give Jordy comes in and is like, hey, I wasn't perfect at the start. I had to work at it. And then I became a really great hands catcher. I was like sideline monster who caught everything. I was leaning. There was one time I was horizontal to the ground and caught a ball that was so far out, thrown out of bounds. And my feet were hanging in the air, and I was at a 35-degree angle and caught the damn thing. It's crazy. One of the greatest catches I've ever seen. So, and then, James Jones, bring him in to help with, Dobbs, and the other dude. Yeah. And be like, hey, I was the 3rd-round pick on a team with a whole bunch of good receivers, and I still found a place to help this team. I found a way to help this team by being a main guy. All right, Livy's sign over here. So,
all right, bro.
I gotta go. Sorry, we had this whole thing, but Jesse's drinking beers in Iowa with a friend. So,
Iowa beers. What the heck?
I don't get it. Whatever.
All right, fair enough.
So, but anyways, I thought I'd stop in the car. So
I appreciate it.
Bye.
All right.
He says bye. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for the quick takes. I kind of feel like I'm Bill Michaels back in the day.
Hey, when he said Terry Mickens was going to get cut, I had to call in and straighten that guy out. And I was right, and he was wrong. I said Kadri Ismail's the guy who's out. Terry Mickens is making the team. And Kadri Ismail got traded to the Dolphins, and Terry Mickens made the team. And then he caught 2 touchdowns against the Lions, and I cried. Anyways, there we go.
All right. All right, bro.
Right. Love you, dude. Catch you later.
Love you too. Peace out. We'll catch you soon. All right. So that sort of thing, just to give you a quick update, anybody that watches our show here on YouTube, is something we're trying to bring in a new format to a new, wider audience. And we got to work on a couple things to make that happen. But right now, there is a strong possibility that Hafeman Bros may also have a Saturday morning offering in the not too distant future where people statewide can hear us. We will talk to callers at times, but we'll also have some of our cast of characters join us for another program that might come to you in a different format. Nothing's been all decided yet, but we're working on it. You got to find some sponsors. Number 1, find some sponsors, find some contributors to make that possible and make it happen. But I have faith. I have faith in that, and I have faith in my Bucks. So, anyway, there's a quick teaser for that. Hopefully that all comes to fruition. If not, then I'll just say I never said it, just like good people in public do. No, just kidding. No, it's something that's legit, and I can see it. I can taste it. I can feel what it can be, and I'm hoping that we can make that all happen soon. Okay, so the Packers, we're not going to dig into the draft too much tonight since Ben can't be on for the rest of it. But what Ben wanted to do, I'll give you a precursor for like future shows coming up in the following weeks. We're going to do some deep dives on some of the draft picks and some of the guys we think that can contribute to the team that have been added. We'll look over the undrafted free agent list too to see if there's anybody there that we really want to highlight and talk about. But let's just pull up the picks here, and I'll give you a couple of quick thoughts on a couple of guys tonight. And then, like I said, we'll get more in depth, as we go in the future, because that one's going to be a time where Ben has a little more time where he can kind of really dissect things. He loves to do that stuff and really do deep dives on stuff. If you know him, you know that already. But if you don't know him, then you don't know that. But now you do, because I just told you. So let's just pull up this list of peeps and we'll take a sneak peek at it here. So, I think it was an interesting draft overall. And here's the thing, like, we did our draft party, and just so y'all know and realize, like, yeah, we're fans, right? Hopefully that's one of the reasons you check us out. We're not just going to be like on the Packers so that we're like duds or whatever. Like, we get animated. We're excited. We have strong opinions about certain things. And, everybody going into this was thinking wide receiver is such a need. And we thought somebody was going to think the Packers are going to take a wide receiver with 2 first-round picks. And then they ended up keeping both first-round picks. And so you thought it was going to happen, even with that one run of wide receivers that was early. And what did they go? They went defense first round, right? They went. Now, the only thing we were it was curious to us was the linebacker first, because he was the first inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker taken off the board in the whole draft. The Packers chose to go for Quay Walker at 22. That was surprising for multiple reasons. Number one, because they just signed Devondre Campbell to a big contract, and now they just drafted a first-round linebacker. Now, we'll talk more about that when we look at Quay Walker and how the two together on the field could be a really impactful thing for this defense. And I want to ask Ben next week when we talk about Walker about a couple of things, trends in the NFL, and why I don't understand those trends. And I also like having rangy middle linebackers. And we'll take a look at, some examples about what that can do for your defense. And then they got Devontae Wyatt, an impactful defensive tackle, at pick 28. Then they made the big move to get Christian Watson at wide receiver, at number 34. And we talked about how that played out and what they gave up. It was a lot to give up to go get him. But again, pulling for the kid. He seems like a great kid, and he's got all the tools. He's got a really high ceiling, incredible athleticism. And if he can get his hands together, that's North Dakota State, whoever had this list, put it on there wrong. North Dakota State, not South Dakota State. I should have corrected that. But that's where he's from. And then those middle round picks are really interesting. Okay. Sean Ryan, not the guy I was hoping for, but maybe the best guy left at that point. I was really hoping they were going to get Parham at that stage of the game in the 3rd round, but the Raiders snatched him a couple picks before. So I'm hoping he'll be okay. We'll talk more about his strengths and weaknesses later. Dobbs. This pick to me is a guy that they believe can be an effective football player right away. A guy that they believe that if Christian Watson struggles, or if Christian Watson is having some issues, that guy could be a safety backup to come in and play one of the main receiver spots. He was very productive. He's not nearly as dynamic, doesn't have nearly as high a ceiling, but he was a very productive and polished college football receiver. And I think that's why the Packers went with him versus some of the other guys that were a little more dynamic. And it was a bit of a stray, right? They went away from some of those crazy athletic traits that they always love with the RAS, the RAS, but they found solid production guys in college for a couple of these picks. Dobbs is one of them. I love Zach Tom. He's a little undersized, but I think he could be a really good player for this team. And I think it was Lee that shouted him out a couple weeks ago when we were talking offensive line, and we didn't mention him for offensive lineman in the draft. That's a really interesting pick, and I think a very good value pick. And then Kingsley, Enagbare, he could be a really impactful guy. He doesn't have the speed. He ran a slow 40, so he dropped, big time. But man, Ben talked about his win rate. We'll talk more about that too. Really like him. And then you're looking, he can also help on specials. And then you're looking at guys like Tariq Carpenter, who can be a big special teams guy that maybe can develop into a defensive piece. Jonathan Ford, who is a big monster, right? Who you hope can be a plugger, a run plugger guy. Rasheed Walker, who at that point in the 7th round, that guy's massive. He's big. He's raw. He's got some stuff to work on, and still has to work on hand placement and stuff like that. But he might be the most talented offensive lineman of the group they've drafted here in this draft. And then the other guy that they picked up late, Samari Tor, he is another guy that had great production in college. Dominated at a smaller school and then went to Nebraska and still did really well against Big Ten competition. And so that last wide receiver pick, when they need wide receivers that are going to be able to be relied on now, like probably 2 of these rookie wide receivers are going to see consistent playing time this season. And so I almost think the plan ended up being this. We went for it with Watson. That guy could be a dynamic monster that'll destroy everybody. But if he has early struggles, you have 2 consistent performers at the collegiate level that know what they're doing. They're not going to be as dynamic, but they can be effective wide receivers and maybe can be relied upon to play as rookies. So that's what I make of this draft as a overarching theme. All right, we'll dig into players on upcoming shows. We will really do deep dives. I leave the deep dives up to Ben because I don't try to deep dive too much. I'll get it a little more on the offensive line, guys, of course. But that's how that'll work. And we hope you come back, and we hope you check out our show. And we hope you tell a friend or tell somebody, maybe they're not even a friend. Tell somebody you don't even like, because it might be good for them to check out our show. Maybe it'll make their day happier. Maybe they'll feel better or smarter by listening to us. You never know. But either way, once in a while, we're right and have some good takes. Even though we got somebody out there that really doesn't think we have some good takes. But if you go back and look at some of our stuff, you guys know we do. All right, peace out. Be good. Check us out next Friday night. And if that other thing develops, keep you posted. Take it easy.